Hello everybody. So, the other day, I was watching Pokemon Challenge Run videos on YouTube, as I often do, when I came across this one run by the YouTuber mah-dry-bread. It was called, Can I Beat Pokemon Platinum Using Only One Pikachu? And I thought, that looks like a fun one. Platinum is the Pokemon generation I enjoy seeing runs of the most because I played Pokemon Pearl as a kid when it came out, so I have a lot of nostalgia for Gen 4. I was really curious to see how well Pikachu could deal with the many Pokemon you encounter throughout the game that know Earthquake since he's a weak electric type. And I also thought Rourke would be a real challenge being the first gym leader since he uses 2 ground types. I wonder how mah-dry-bread will get past...
I'll just use Double Team to not get hit.
Oh. Now, I don't have any problem with people using Double Team in Pokemon Challenge runs. At the end of the day, it's their challenge and they make the rules and they're just doing it to have fun. But for me personally, the fun I get out of watching these kinds of videos is seeing all the crazy strategies that people have to come up with to succeed. When you use luck-based moves like Double Team or Attract, it's just not as fun for me to watch because there's no interesting strategy involved. It's just reset until you get lucky. And that's fine for people who want to do that, it's just not how I personally enjoy these runs. So I searched YouTube for another solo Pikachu Platinum run, and... nothing. I couldn't find a single other person who had done it. I'd actually been wanting to do some Pokemon Challenge runs myself for a while at this point, so I thought to myself, you know, I'm 100% sure you can beat Pokemon Platinum using only a single Pikachu and not using Double Team. And if I'm gonna start doing these runs myself, what better Pokemon to start with than the series mascot? So I figured out how to get everything working and started up my own game. Let's go over my rules. Number 1, I can only use Pikachu in combat, and I can use other Pokemon for HMs, but I can't use them in battle. Number 2, no glitches, exploits, or luck-based strategies like Double Team or Attract. Now obviously, there's some inherent luck in the game, with moves not being 100% accurate, but the goal is to form a reliable strategy so that anyone who wants to play along at home can try this for themselves. Number 3, no items in battle. I can use held items, but no, like, Light Ball. It's a special item for Pikachu that doubles his attack and special attack, so it would just make the run way too easy. I, of course, name myself Toast and choose to play as the girl, because look at her. Cute boots, a scarf, a hat, and no pants. Truly, a fashion icon. I named the rival MDB after mah-dry-bread, whose run inspired me to do this one, and because it sort of turns this into a bit of a fun competition. I use a cheat code to replace the starter Piplup with Pikachu, so our rival will have a Turtwig. Clearly the hardest of the 3 starters for Pikachu to deal with, because grass resists electric, and he evolves into a ground type which is super effective against electric, and immune to it. This is supposed to be a challenge after all. Then I save the game before selecting my starter because I want to reset until I get one with good IVs and a decent nature. So for those of you who might not know, every time a Pokemon in the game is generated, it randomly has a hidden number between 0 and 31 in every stat that determines how high or low that stat is. Those numbers are known as individual values, or IVs for short. In addition to that, each Pokemon has a unique nature that can either boost one stat by 10% and lower another by 10%, or have no effect at all on your stats. I'm worried about how well our Pikachu is going to fare against the first gym leader since he uses rock types with high defense, so I reset until I get a Pikachu with decent attack IVs and an attack boosting nature. I'd also like it to be male since it prevents us from using Attract in most battles, and Ash has a male Pikachu in the anime. After a few resets, we get a male Pikachu with really good HP, attack, and special attack. His nature is lonely, so increased attack and decreased defense. Perfect. We name him Superb from the Latin word superbia, which means pride, a reference to mah-dry's Pikachu's name in his run, and because we expect his performance to be no less than superb. The real reason, though, is so that I can call him Soup for short, because I was pretty hungry when naming him. Lucas then advises us to get our mom's permission to become a drifter who beats up other people's Pokemon for money, and renown since we're still only 10 years old. Our mom tells us she's fine with it as long as we keep up with our therapy-mandated journaling. Then our rival's mom gives us a package to deliver to her son in Jubilife. On our way there, we fight a few mandatory trainers, and then immediately get inducted into an ongoing Interpol investigation after we arrive. So I'd say our adventure is going pretty well so far. In the trainer school, we deliver our rival's package, which turned out to be some maps, so he gives us one of the extra copies. We then run into a businessman who asks us to talk to some promotional clowns before giving us a cool watch. You've gotta love the wonders of the big city. After that, I try the second rival fight, but his Pokemon just refuse to get paralyzed, and he keeps getting critical hits on me, which are only about a 6% chance in this generation, by the way. Finally, on my 10th attempt, his luck runs out and I get this amazing run. His Turtwig gets paralyzed from my Pikachu's static ability fairly early on, and he can't move due to paralysis for 7 turns. The ability Static only has about a 30% chance to paralyze an opponent Pokemon when they make contact with your Pokemon, and there's only a 25% chance each turn that they won't be able to move due to that paralysis. Normally I try to avoid luck, but this early in the game it doesn't matter that much. We get Rock Smash from a hiker on our way to Orberg. It's the only move Pikachu can learn until after the second gym that's super effective against rock types, but it's a hidden move, so I have to avoid teaching it to him or I'll be stuck with it until we unlock the move deleter all the way in Canalave City. I know I don't stand a chance against the rock gym leader Rourke without leveling up, so I decide to do some EV training on the Ravaged Path and Route 207. Effort values, or EVs for short, are a special number that affect your Pokemon's stats. Your Pokemon can only have 510 EVs total, and can only have a maximum of 255 in each stat. The easiest way to increase your Pokemon's EVs is to feed it vitamins, but those are very expensive and you can't even buy them until Veilstone City, so we have to increase Soup's EVs the hard way instead. Every time you beat a Pokemon in battle, your Pokemon earns a certain number of EVs. I want to increase Soup's attack and special attack EVs, so I'm only battling Wild Psyducks, which give 1 special attack EV per Wild Psyduck that you defeat, and Machops, which do the same but for attack. Now, ideally you'd defeat at least 250 Psyducks and Machops each to make sure you max out your attack and special attack early in the game, but it's not super necessary yet, and after doing this for literally several hours straight, it can get pretty tedious. So, after grinding Soup up to level 22 on Wild Psyducks and Machops, I decide to teach him Return and see how well he does against the trainers Onix in Rourke's gym. Return is a normal move that deals damage based on your Pokemon's happiness, and since we spent so long grinding with Soup, it hits pretty hard since he's about as happy as he's gonna get. On our first attempt, we get a lucky critical hit with Return to take out the youngster's Geodude, and make sure to use a few growls so his Onix can't take us out with Rock Throw. We then start using Return before he can spam Hardens to increase his defense, and it's an easy first try victory. I attempt Rourke several times, but he proves to be the luckiest man alive, as he gets a critical hit against me in almost every single battle I do, doesn't get paralyzed by Soup's static ability once, and hardly misses any of his rock throws, a move with a 10% chance to miss. So I grind Soup up some more to level 25, and then, finally, on my 13th attempt, funnily enough, the RNG gods realized that he'd been cheating luck this whole time, and it's finally my turn for revenge. I crit Geodude on the second turn to take him out. Onix misses 2 screeches and then gets taken out by another crit after healing with a potion. That just leaves Craniados, who goes down easily to 2 returns, netting us the first badge and allowing us to finally stop grinding and progress the story. Thank you, RNGesus. After beating the first Team Galactic battle with Lucas, a large man in overalls talks with us about fashion. Then I head back to Route 201 to catch a Bidoof so I could teach it Rock Smash and get to Floroma Town. There we head into the local wind farm to rescue a little girl's father from the evil organization Team Galactic, where we have our first real challenging fight against one of their leaders, Commander Mars. But I learned Thunderbolt on the way here, so even though her Perugly does some decent damage to us, it's a pretty easy first try victory. The man thanks us and tells us that Team Galactic kidnapped him and forced him to use the turbines to provide them free energy, which they hoped to use to literally create a new universe. At this point we stop listening and just reunite him with his daughter, who proceeds to tell him that he smells. On Route 205, I make sure to catch a Pachirisu, because they have the special ability Pickup, so as long as I keep it in my party, depending on its level, there's a small chance after every battle that it will be holding certain items that I can use later in the run. Some people might consider this a bit cheap, but I don't see any issue with it as long as it doesn't participate in battle. And to me, it's essentially the same as having an HM Slave Pokemon in the party, but with the added benefit of occasionally giving me rare candies, which could save me a ton of time grinding later in the run. Every other person I've watched do challenge runs doesn't consider pickup Pokemon cheating either, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments. In the forest to the north, we meet a beautiful woman named Cheryl, who in exchange for agreeing to escort her, gives us an item that will be incredibly useful later on. Next up, in Eternicity, we fight the gym leader with easily the worst haircut in the game, Gardenia. Her Turtwig does manage to set up a Reflect to raise her team's defense, but our return is so strong at this point it doesn't really matter. We do get a couple of lucky crits to take out her Cherrim and Roserade, but we could always have just reset until Turtwig used another move like Sunny Day instead, so it doesn't really matter. Better fashion always wins in the end. Outside of the Team Galactic building, we meet a mysteriously fashionable woman with clearly the best outfit in the game, who tells us that her name is Cynthia. When we ask how we can be as cool as her, she teaches us a hidden move that lets our Pokemon cut down trees in a single blow. Awesome. Using our newfound power, we make our way inside the building, beating every grunt along the way for XP until we make our way to the top floor, where one of the Galactic commanders has stolen the local bike shop clerk's Pokemon. After telling her that they probably called her Commander Jupiter because it's also huge and filled with gas, she gets mad and wants to fight. Her Zubat is an easy one-shot, but her Skuntank nearly one-shots us in return with a Night Slash. Luckily, it gets paralyzed by our static ability and can't move on the next turn, so we quickly take it out with another Thunderbolt. Yikes. Outside of the bike shop, Cynthia stops to give us an egg as a thank you for recognizing her fashion skills, and inside, the clerk gives us a free bike to thank us for rescuing his Pokemon. Before we're allowed to leave the city, we're forced to talk to the town's resident old man, who asks us to let him be our mentor in the ways of spelunking. But that either means that he's a pervert or that we'll get our nice outfit dirty, so I tell him no. Then he tries to guilt trip us by talking about how lonely he is, even though he's clearly living in this house with 3 other people. So we call him out on his behavior and then skip town before the locals can get angry. Hey, remember our paralysis luck way back during the second rival fight? Well, that luck finally caught back up to us while grinding against some trainers on the cycling road. After getting paralyzed by one of his Pikachu cousin's static ability in the previous fight, Soup had this battle where he couldn't move due to paralysis for 5 turns, got crit by a quick attack, and nearly died. And the only reason he didn't was because the luck balanced out, and all 3 of the opponent's Starlies got paralyzed by his static ability after their first attack. It was a close one. After seeing 35 different kinds of Pokemon, Lucas's father rewards us for our dedication to completing the Pokedex by gifting us an experience share, which I need to give to my Pachirisu pickup so that it can get to level 21 and start getting us some rare candies without ever actually having to participate in a battle. But for now, I just give it to my Bidoof, which I need to evolve for HM purposes anyway. On our way south, the egg that Cynthia gave us starts to hatch into the last Pokemon that we'll need for this run. After naming it appropriately, I give it the Soothe Bell that we received from Cheryl earlier to make it easier to evolve later down the line. Next, I make sure to head back to Orberg to pick up the TM for Brick Break, the best fighting type move that Pikachu can learn, and teach him that along with the TM for Grass Knot that I got from beating Gardenia earlier, so we finally have some moves to deal with rock and ground types. Feels nice after struggling so much with Rourke. And with that, we pretty much have Soup's final moveset for the foreseeable future. Thunderbolt, Return, Brick Break, and Grass Knot. Last move's not bad. After arriving in Hearthome, we enter the Pokemon Contest Hall and run into our mom, who absolutely roasts our outfit and then gives us a fancy dress out of pity. Then, while grinding XP by fighting trainers in probably the scariest looking gym in the whole series, Soup gets confused by Psybeam from a Mischievous, which only has a 10% chance of happening, by the way. And because we have a defense-lowering nature and raised our attack EVs so much, hitting ourselves in confusion really hurts. Luckily, though, that only has a 50% chance of happening. Yeah. Fantina is up next, and her Duskull gets paralyzed from Soup's static right off the bat, as I go for Thunderbolt. Doesn't quite take it out, so I go for Grass Knot as she heals, in an attempt to make it a one-shot with Thunderbolt on the next turn. I get a crit anyway, though, and she sends out Haunter, who goes down to 1 Thunderbolt. Magius is next, and I know Thunderbolt won't one-shot it, so I go for Grass Knot, hoping to prevent Fantina from healing, completely forgetting about its citrus berry. Turns out ghosts don't weigh very much though, and I get hit pretty hard with Shadow Ball, and then on the next turn, Soup pulls a Generation 6 and lives on 1 HP because he loves me, and as the cherry on top, he crits Miss Magius to take it out. I love you too, Soup. Next up is a rival fight, but there's absolutely no way we're beating his Grottle at this level, so it's back to Orberg Gate to grind more Psyducks for XP and special attack EVs. While I grind, I guess now is a good time to mention my strategy for this fight. Because our attack is going to be lowered one stage throughout the entire battle due to his Staravia's Intimidate ability, I figure Thunderbolt will be my best bet for taking out his Grottle. Even though grass types resist electric moves, it should still deal decent damage thanks to all the EV training, and because the move is the same type as our Pokemon, it gets what's called a same type attack bonus, or stab for short. So a Pikachu using Thunderbolt will deal more damage with the move than a non-electric type using it because of this stab boost. It's 1.5 times more damage. Anyway, at level 36 I decide to try again, and our Thunderbolt is dealing significantly more damage thanks to all those Psyduck families we've destroyed, but Grottle's Razor Leaf is no joke and easily two-shots us. Luckily for us though, our rival is a complete moron and decides to use Withdrawal instead for absolutely no reason, so we easily win on our second attempt. After that, we travel all the way to Veilstone City, where we learn that Soup's hidden power would be Grass should we teach him that TM. I was really hoping for hidden power Ice to help make some of the future fights easier, but now that we know, we don't need to consider the possibility of using it, since we already have the move Grass Knot. Because this is a big city, we run into another clown who gives us a purse, then we head next door to get our Togepi a massage so he'll level up faster. That's when we learn that he was apparently holding some poison extract this whole time. No wonder his happiness was so low. Inside the Veilstone department store, we buy the TM for Natural Gift, just in case we need any Ice-type attacks in the future. It's a very strange move that deals a different type of damage and different amounts depending on the berry that your Pokemon is holding. It also consumes the berry to activate the move, so you can only use it once per battle, but it can occasionally make for a good secret weapon trump card, so we might as well pick it up while we're here. Another useful thing I decide to pick up while I'm here is the Metronome. It's a held item that you can buy from the house next to the casino for 1,000 coins. It's probably one of the most useful items in the entire game, and it's going to be Soup's main held item throughout the rest of the run. While holding it, each time your Pokemon uses a move consecutively, that move gains a 10% boost in power the next turn it's used. So if you use Thunderbolt 5 turns in a row, for example, on the 6th turn, you'll deal 50% more damage with it than you normally would have. What's really crazy though, is that you can technically get this item as early as the first route. If you wait until nighttime and catch Cricketots, each one has a 5% chance of holding a Metronome. So you could essentially play through the whole game with it. Now that I'm thinking about it while writing this, I'll probably do that the next time I have to fight Rourke without any super effective moves in one of these challenges. Anyway, back to the gym battles. After clearing out all of the trainers in her gym, Soup is level 40 as we challenge Maylene. Her Meditite flinches us with a Fake Out but gets paralyzed by our static ability in the process, and then goes down to 1 Thunderbolt. Unfortunately, Lucario takes us out in a single Drain Punch soon after. On our second attempt though, her Meditite doesn't use Fake Out, so we have enough health to survive a single Drain Punch, probably thanks to the defense EVs I got from fighting Hiker's Geodudes on the way here. Her Lucario gets paralyzed by our static ability, cutting his speed by 75%, so thanks to that and the Metronome boosts, we're able to take out the rest of her team with Thunderbolt before she even has a chance to hit us again. After obtaining our 4th badge from the Tsundere gym leader, we meet up with the Interpol agent Looker again inside of the Team Galactic warehouse, where we can grab the HM for Fly. But we need to find a key before we're able to explore further, so for now we'll just head south instead. On Route 214, I make sure to pick the Pomeg berry and grab the TM for Dig from the Ruin Maniac's cave, since I'm sure we'll need both at some point later on. Next, in Pastoria City, I stop to enjoy the sights, before having another rival battle just outside the water gym. This fight always seemed so soon after the previous fight to me, and just like the last fight, my plan is to reset until he uses Withdrawal for no reason. Fortunately though, we get a lucky crit with Thunderbolt on our 3rd attempt, and Soup absolutely tanks an Aqua Jet with 1 HP for the victory. It really is like I have the affection mechanic from Generation 6 in this run, isn't it? After that, we make our way through the trainers in the water gym, and obviously being an electric type with Grass Knot, we don't encounter a single hitch along the way. Next up is Crasher Wake. Normally, he tends to be a pretty big difficulty spike in this game, but Soup is level 43 and has Thunderbolt and Grass Knot, so his entire team is an easy one-shot sweep. It is a little worrying just how much damage his Floatzel did to us though, considering our rival is also going to have one of those in the final fight. Getting back to the story, Team Galactic sets off a bomb in the local nature preserve, so we're forced to take the logical next step and chase after the bomber since we just proved our qualifications to Interpol by beating an old luchador in a fight. Because his only Pokemon is as weak and as toxic as his personality, we easily defeat the bomber. And as a reward for fighting terrorism, Cynthia shows up again and gives us a strange bottle that she claims is a secret potion for curing headaches. I think I'll just keep that in the bag for now. Up north, I run into some Psyducks blocking my path, so I decide to test out that secret potion on the local wildlife, and they all flee in terror. Good thing I didn't drink that. Cynthia then shows back up, claims that they ran away because we cured their headaches, and asks us to deliver something to her grandmother if we're heading north anyway, probably in an attempt to distract us from the fact that she just tried to take us out. On the way, I evolve Togepi so that I can teach it Fly to get around the map easier, and after teaching it the HM for Defog that I got from grave robbing some ancient ruins, we've completed nearly all the training required for our secondary Pokemon. In Celestic Town, we run into Cynthia's grandmother, and after giving her Cynthia's charm, we try to tell her that her granddaughter is going around eliminating any possible fashion competitors. Then she asks us to follow her inside of a secluded cave where we get ambushed by the leader of Team Galactic, a crazy blue-haired man named Cyrus, whose ultimate goal is to destroy the world so that he can create a new, better one from scratch. Classic villain. After telling him we think his plan is dumb, Cyrus gets upset and throws a tantrum. But all of his Pokemon turn out to be big babies just like him, so he runs away crying after we beat them. Cynthia's grandmother then uses her elderly wisdom to teach our Pokemon how to harness the energy of his tears to literally carry us across bodies of water. Even though this is clearly a bribe to make sure that we won't tell anyone that she hired the leader of an evil organization to beat up a child in a cave, the power does sound pretty cool, so we agree to keep it quiet. I decide to use this new ability to explore some areas around the map that were previously inaccessible, and then this happened. I had been collecting a bunch of items that I'd previously skipped and grinding some trainers for XP without saving like an idiot, so after doing all of that a second time, I take a break to do some relaxing berry gardening, since I need to calm down, and I might need some extra berries for Natural Gift later in the run anyway. I make sure to water my berry garden every 8 hours and grind wild Psyducks for XP and EVs until Soup is level 59. At this level and with all the EV training, I think Grass Knot might be able to take out our rival's newly acquired Torterra, so I attempt the 5th rival fight on the bridge in Canalave City. On our 3rd attempt, we get this run where his Heracross decides to use Night Slash instead of Brick Break on us for some reason, so we have enough health going into Torterra to tank a Razor Leaf. Last out is his Floatzel, who could easily take us out with a single Aqua Jet, but he goes for Quick Attack instead, causing us to live on 2 HP as we knock him out with a single Thunderbolt. Man, that was a lucky fight. I really don't think I could have won without those few defense EVs I got from random hikers earlier. The next gym leader, Byron, uses all steel types, and he's got a Steelix with Earthquake. While I'm playing footage of my attempts where I try to figure out how to deal with that, I guess now is a good time to talk about damage ranges. Notice how sometimes I knock out his Magneton and other times I don't? Well, that's because in Pokemon, most moves deal damage in a range. So the move Brick Break, for example, says that it has a power of 75, but that's actually the average number of the range of damage it can possibly deal, which is why I often do multiple attempts to see if I can take out a Pokemon if I get a higher roll on my move's damage range. That number also doesn't take into account things like your Pokemon's nature, individual values, or effort values. There really is a lot to the mechanics of this game beneath the surface that you don't think about or notice in a regular playthrough. Anyway, I realize that there's no way I can take out Byron's Steelix unless I do something dumb, so I do. Because we now have access to Surf, we can backtrack all the way to Floroma Town and run through the beautiful meadows, where I can find a Miracle Seed. It's a held item that boosts Grass-type moves' power by 20% in Generation 4. With our newly implemented Miracle Seed strategy, Byron's Steelix goes down in a single Grass Knot, and even though his Bastiodon takes out over half of our health with Metal Burst, he's no match for us tripping him up in a bit of grass, securing us the 6th Gym Badge. After beating Byron, we take a ferry to the Iron Islands where we run into a fancily dressed man named Riley. He tells us that he's been training here for so long by throwing rocks at unfashionable people that his Pokemon have learned how to move literal boulders to assist him, and because we're the only other reasonably dressed person on the whole island, he teaches our Pokemon how to do it too. Back in Canalave, Professor Rowan gathers everyone in the local library to go on a philosophical rant about how mysterious Pokemon are. Just when we're about to interrupt him to ask how he's never seen a single Pokemon from the region he lives in, and why he needs to rely so heavily on child labor, a bomb suddenly goes off on the opposite side of the map with enough force to shake the building that we're in. Being the nice guy that he is, the professor asks us, a 10-year-old child, to go investigate the lake where the explosion took place. Now, I don't want to head into an active war zone, but the next of the 3 lakes is directly above my hometown, so I decide to head there anyway to put a stop to whatever's going on. Naturally, the cause of the disturbance is revealed to be Team Galactic. Turns out the bomb in the nature preserve earlier was just a controlled explosion in preparation for their real goal, which apparently was to kill a bunch of Magikarp. I'm sorry, what exactly was their motivation again? To find out, we head deeper into the lake and beat up Galactic Commander Saturn's Pokemon until he tells us, in the only way he knows how, through a dramatic villain monologue about how he's better than us, even though we just beat him in a fight. Oh yeah, and they're doing it because they want to draw out legendary Pokemon so they can stop time and create a new universe. I really don't think they've thought this through. Anyway, the grunts are all dumb and spill the beans about their next target being Lake Verity, so we fly back to our hometown and assist Lucas and Professor Rowan in taking them out. Once we're there, we learn that Lucas somehow lost to Commander Mars in battle, despite having objectively the best starter Pokemon for dealing with her team. So it's yet again up to us to fend her off, which we do easily, even with a critical hit fake out from her Purugly. After the battle though, she tells us that they already acquired the 3 Pokemon they needed before anyone got there, meaning that I traveled all the way across the map to my lake and dealt with the problem before Lucas or our rival even arrived at their lakes. Well, better go check on my rival, I guess. While searching in the snow to make sure that Team Galactic didn't just dump his body somewhere, the blizzard gets so cold that we manifest the knowledge of a professional rock climber out of our sheer determination to claw our way back to Earth out from the clear hellscape that surrounds us. Further north, we find out that our rival is alive and well. He tells us not to worry about him and instead to go fight the gym leader in the next town over while he deals with Team Galactic himself. Now, I don't trust in his ability to handle this situation at all, but I forgot to bring gloves and my hands are starting to turn as blue as my hair, so I decide to humor him. In Snowpoint City, we fight the Ice-type gym leader, Candace. Her Sneasel is an easy one-shot, but her Piloswine has a high damage range with Brick Break. On our 4th attempt, we manage to get the range so he can't hit us with Earthquake, but her Obama Snow is out next, and he hits us like a truck with Woodhammer for 120 damage, taking himself out in the process. We take an additional 9 damage thanks to the Hailstorm whipped up by his ability, but we get a lucky crit against her last Pokemon, Frostlass, taking it out in one shot and winning us the 7th badge. Soup really has been on a roll lately. As a reward for defeating her in battle, Candace taught our Pokemon the proper technique required to pull off the rock climbing moves we willed into being earlier. We use this new ability to head west where, as expected, we find our rival being taunted by our old friend Commander Jupiter after losing to her in battle. She leaves and he starts moping about how helpless he felt watching them torture a defenseless Pokemon in front of him, knowing that there was nothing he could do to stop it. This is starting to get depressing, so I fly back to the town with the slot machines to cheer myself up. There, we meet our old Interpol agent friend Looker again. He entrusts us with his plans to infiltrate Team Galactic's headquarters, and then rushes on ahead, counting on us to follow closely behind him for backup. That's nice and all, but it's been 8 hours since the last time I watered my berry plants, so I make sure to tend to my garden a bit first while he waits. Trust me, this is more important. Eventually, after a bit of botany, we do make our way into the basement of Team Galactic's headquarters, where we find the key that Looker was carrying on the ground next to a puddle without any sign of him. I'm sure he's fine. Using the key, we make our way to the top of the evil headquarters where we find Cyrus giving a speech, reminiscent of one that would get instantly demonetized on YouTube. When he's finished, Looker finds us and says that he wants to part ways for some reason. I say fine and decide to go take a nap, because it's been a long day and I've more than earned it. Once we're feeling refreshed, we go and find Cyrus and threaten to cancel him on Twitter for that speech he just gave. This causes him to get super defensive and claim that he didn't actually mean any of it, and he never really cared about Team Galactic anyway, because he thinks they're all useless. Harsh, but accurate. He takes offense at us agreeing to his sentiments and demands a fight. Luckily though, I have a super effective move for every one of his Pokemon, so it's pretty easy. Which is why it only took me 3 attempts. After we beat him, he gives us a special device that he claims will allow us to capture anything. Better save that for later. We interrogate some of the scientists in a side room who lead us to where Team Galactic has been forcing them to do their sick experiments on the legendary Pokemon. There we find Commander Saturn. We tell him that his name is pretty ironic since no one will ever put a ring on him after what he's doing here, which causes him to get flustered and demand a rematch. His Pokemon are all as weak as his planet's density though, and all of them go down easily to 1 Thunderbolt except for Bronzor due to us getting a low damage roll. With that victory, we're able to release the legendary Lake Trio and get back to the truly important things. Checking in on our berries. It looks like they're still not quite in bloom yet, so I decide to explore a bit more of Mount Coronet while I wait. After half an hour of trekking up the mountain, fighting every single galactic grunt we come across along the way, we finally reach the summit. But that's where we encounter a major problem that I did not anticipate. At the peak of Mount Coronet on Spear Pillar, there's a required double battle. Now, normally this wouldn't be such a big deal. So far, I've managed to skip every single double battle in the game by simply depositing all of my other Pokemon besides Pikachu in the PC at the Pokemon Center. That way I can force them into single battles or avoid them entirely. The issue with that here, though, is that in order to reach this place, you need a Pokemon that can use Rock Climb, which is a move that Pikachu can't learn. Now, I could simply make my Bibarel faint so that I could still use Rock Climb to get here, but couldn't use him in the fight, but in order to make him faint in the first place would require me to use him in battle. Plus, I just spent the better part of an hour getting up here, and I'm not super keen on the idea of making that journey twice, so I decided to improvise. I felt the most fair solution to the problem was to send out my Pachirisu and just use a Pokeball on the opponent's Pokemon whenever it was her turn. Since you can't catch other trainers' Pokemon, all this does is skip her turn without even using up the Pokeball, and when you do this, they actually tell you not to be a thief, which is pretty funny coming from Team Galactic members since they all use stolen Pokemon. I also promised myself that I would reset if any of their Pokemon targeted my Pachirisu instead of Pikachu, since it would go against the spirit of the challenge to deflect hits away from Soup in that way. I ended up getting lucky and everything worked out on my first attempt. So, did I beat Pokemon Platinum only ever using Pikachu in battle? Technically, no. But in spirit, well, let's just see how the rest of this run goes, I guess. After that mess, Soup is level 69, nice, and we run into Commanders Mars and Jupiter again, just as our rival finally shows up. Together, with the power of companionship and Soup's metronome-boosted Brick Break, we help Mars live up to her namesake of the Red Planet, as we absolutely destroy them. Unfortunately, our rival's confidence in his abilities also gets restored in the process, since he technically participated in this battle, but we'll take the bad with the good. Speaking of which, Cyrus's plan to destroy the world finally comes to fruition, as he uses the magical balls he got from experimenting on the legendary Pokemon earlier to form a chain that imprisons the beings of time and space. But because we freed them earlier, and they're still mad about having their balls stolen, the 3 lake Pokemon show back up and summon the scariest thing I've ever seen in an attempt to stop him. It summons a portal and sucks him in, and then Cynthia shows up out of nowhere and tells us that if we don't go inside of it and stop him, it'll destroy the region and eventually the whole world. I'm pretty sure she's only saying all of this because she's still trying to eliminate us as a fashion competitor, but I'd rather take my chances with the black hole than suffer through traversing Mount Coronet again, so I hop in. Inside, we find Cyrus, and even though his whole team is fully evolved now, every single one of his Pokemon gets easily one-shot by either Thunderbolt or Brick Break, so we destroy him on the first try and get Soup to level 70. Afterwards, Cynthia realizes that the world really is in some serious danger of being destroyed, and immediately regrets following us in here to try and finish off the job she started earlier. She heals our Pokemon in a half-hearted attempt at an apology, and promises that if we save the day, she'll stop trying to take us out and let us properly challenge her to the title of Ultimate Fashionista later. We shake on it, and then it's time to face our greatest fear: a giant bug. Now, there are two ways you can deal with bugs. The first is to smush them, but this bug just so happens to be controlling the entire dimension that we're standing in, so I opt for the second option. I pull out the special device that we snatched from Cyrus earlier that allows us to capture any living creature so that I can safely release it into the wild later. Once that's over with, Cyrus throws a temper tantrum because he didn't get his way, and then jumps off of a cliff. Neither of us feel like sticking around until the police show up and spending all day in the station filling out a report with Officer Jenny, so we head back home through the portal, and Cynthia gives us a sincere thanks on behalf of everyone in the region for saving the universe. Back in the Pokemon Center, we take a closer look at the bug we just caught and realize that it's actually a ghost type and not a living thing at all, so our plan of releasing it won't work. Luckily for us, however, ghosts aren't real, so we do it anyway. After that, we head to Professor Rowan's lab to grill everyone else about why they didn't help us, and they all claim that they were super busy gathering other people to help, and they just didn't have enough time, and they definitely wanted to help, but they're sorry they couldn't. And anyway, shouldn't I be getting back to challenging gym leaders and taking on the Elite Four? Yeah. Okay. At this point, I am super done with everybody around me, so I stop on my way to Sunyshore City and pick up the best named item in the game to cheer me up a bit. Because this is a Generation 4 Pokemon game, at least one of the gym leaders is required by law to be sulking in a lighthouse when you first arrive in town. So we head up, tell them to get back to work, and then start making our way through the gym puzzle. By the way, this puzzle is the hardest freaking puzzle in the entire game, and it always takes me the longest time to solve. As a kid, it probably took me like 2 weeks to get past it, because I would always give up when I couldn't figure it out and then go do other stuff. And the sole reason why is because some sadistic game developer decided it would be fun to add this cool beam of lightning that makes it seem like it's blocking the path because of the overhead view of the gym, when in actuality, you can just walk right under it. And for whatever reason, every single time I replay through this game, I forget that you can just walk right under that beam to get to the next trainer. Who designed this? I apologize for that. Where was I again? Right, Volkner. His entire team is made up of electric types, so I teach Soup the TM for Dig that we got earlier, replacing the move Return. It's served us well up to this point, and I have a heart scale so I can always just go back to the move relearner in Pastoria if we ever need it again. With that, his entire team is an easy one-shot, and we have officially earned every gym badge in the Sinnoh region. On our way through Victory Road, we run into a mandatory trainer with a level 48 Torterra that knows Earthquake. Soup can't take out the Torterra in one hit with Grass Knot while holding a Metronome, or even a Miracle Seed, so that only leaves us with a few options. The first would be to just go and level up until we're strong enough to either tank the attack or one-shot it in return. The second option would be to just reset until I get a 6% chance of a critical hit. The third would be to go and harvest berries and teach Soup Natural Gift. Because all of these would take forever, I opt for the fourth option and equip a Razor Fang. It's a held item that has a 10% chance of making a target flinch and skip their turn if you're faster than them and attack first. I get lucky and the Torterra flinches on my first attempt. I know this could easily be considered a luck-based strategy, but I just did it to save myself some time since it's not a major battle, and I honestly feel like it's barely worth mentioning anyway, since we have a much tougher fight with a Torterra coming up soon, where we won't be able to rely on luck. What do you guys think? Should this be considered cheating with our rule set in any possible future runs? The next challenging fight is the last rival battle, but as we just learned, Soup is too low of a level to deal with his Torterra right now. So instead, we fly around the map and battle every single trainer I can find who I skipped on my way through the map the first time. And I mean every trainer. While we're doing that, an egg begins to hatch. What? I didn't even know I had this. What could it be? It's a mascot Pokemon reminding everyone watching this to please like the video and subscribe. After that grind, we're finally ready to take on our rival. All we have to do is go over to our berry garden that I've been diligently taking care of and making sure to water every 8 hours for the past 2 days, and they still haven't grown yet. Yeah, I'm starting to understand why nobody ever uses the move Natural Gift. That's okay though. After running some damage calculations, I've come up with a plan. If we use all of our rare candies before the fight to get Soup up to level 96, there's about a 70% chance of us taking out his Torterra in one hit with an Aspear Berry powered Natural Gift instead of a Pomeg Berry. Then, we can fly to Pastoria City and use our Heart Scale to reteach Soup Dig, and we can buy some extra Natural Gift TMs from the Veilstone department store just in case we need any more. So, we finish off our rival's last Pokemon, fly to Pastoria, and... oh. Turns out you can't relearn TMs in this generation. You can only learn level up moves with the move relearner. Well, thank God I didn't save the game. Let's talk about why I didn't while I do some more grinding. Something I've purposely failed to mention until now is there's actually another YouTuber who inspired me to start doing these challenge runs. One who I've actually been watching for even longer than mah-dry-bread, and that's JRose11. He's been doing a series on YouTube where he plays through Generation 1 games using only first form Pokemon, and ranking all of their performances. Generation 1 is my other favorite game to see runs of, because the original Pokemon Red was the first video game I ever played as a kid, and one of the rule sets that he implements for his runs is something he likes to call Pokemon Stadium 2 rules, where you're not allowed to save before the final rival battle or between Elite Four members. I love this rule because it forces you to use logical, thought-out strategies instead of relying on solely luck. It's also super helpful in older generation runs like this one, where TMs are one use only, so if you mess up with them during the Elite Four, it's not a huge deal. But yeah, huge shout out to JRose here. I actually made my very own Discord fan server for him since he didn't have his own official one. Recently, as of recording this, he's been struggling a bit with his mental health, so everyone head over to his channel after this video and spread some love and support his way. I'll make sure to provide relevant iCards and links for all the relevant channels in this video and in the description. Anyway, back to our run. Because we spent so much extra real-world time doing this challenge thanks to the reset and all that extra grinding, our berries are finally ready to be harvested. Remember, I planted these all the way back before we fight our rival in Canalave on the bridge. Just think about all the stuff we've done since then. Now that we're ready though, here are our stats. Our HP is decent, but our defense is pretty laughable, so we're pretty much going to have to one-shot everything. Our attack and special attack are both high, but I'm worried about Cynthia's Spiritomb and Roserade. It looks like we should be fast enough to outspeed her Garchomp though, so that's nice. We're a higher level now thanks to the extra bit of grinding I did in the rare candies, so I decided to use a riskier strategy against my rival. I equip the Miracle Seed and go for Grass Knot against his Torterra, since now that I know I can't use the move relearner, I really can't afford to replace Dig with Natural Gift, because I'm going to need Dig for Cynthia's Roserade. Grass Knot only has about an 18% chance of getting the necessary damage range, but we get lucky and knock him out on our first try. Snorlax lives through a Brick Break due to his Staraptor lowering our attack by a stage, and we get nailed by Earthquake for 152 damage. Soup takes it like a champ though, and we finish Snorlax off. Then the rest of his team is a simple sweep with Thunderbolts. Man, we got lucky there. This is honestly probably one of the hardest rival fights in all of the Pokemon games. After healing, we take a deep breath and make our way into the Elite Four. First up is the Bug Trainer, Aaron, but his entire team is an easy one-shot sweep with Thunderbolt. I don't even think it mattered that I had the Metronome equipped. Next is one of the scariest trainers in this run for us, Bertha, the Ground-type user. Because we're such a high level though, her entire team is a one-shot sweep with Grass Knot, except for Gliscor, so before going into the fight, I made sure to replace Thunderbolt with Natural Gift and gave Soup a Pomeg Berry, Seeing a Pikachu moveset without an electric move makes me laugh so hard. Anyway, thanks to our strategy, we easily defeat Bertha, only managing to take damage from the sandstorm set up by her Hippowdon in the process, and Soup levels up to 99. After the fight, I heal up since the use of items outside of battle is allowed in my rule set. Then I re-equip the metronome and use the TM for Thunderbolt that I got from exploring the Valley Windworks earlier while grinding to replace Natural Gift again. Flint the Fire-type Elite Four member is up next, and his entire team goes down to 1 Thunderbolt, except for his Magmortar, which is a range, even with the metronome equipped. We don't get the range we need, but for some reason he decides to use the move Solar Beam after healing with a berry. It's an attack that takes 2 turns and we're faster, so we easily win. What was with that move choice? He has Flamethrower. Anyway, I use an Ether to restore Thunderbolt's power points, and then move on to the final Elite Four member, the Psychic Trainer Lucian. I get a low damage range with Thunderbolt, so his Mr. Mime lives and sets up a light screen. I don't want to reset my metronome boost by changing moves, but I'm pretty sure he's going to heal, so I go for Brick Break to destroy his screen and reset his team's special defense back to normal, as he uses a full restore and I take him out with another Thunderbolt. I get another low damage range against his Bronzong, but he just uses Calm Mind, so I take him out with another Thunderbolt before he actually manages to deal any damage. Then he sends out Gallade, who tanks a metronome-boosted Thunderbolt, heals with a Citrus Berry, and takes out over half of our health in 1 Psycho Cut. He can't handle another Thunderbolt, though, and next out is Alakazam. His special defense is pretty decent, but not good enough to survive a Stab Thunderbolt with a 50% power boost, so he goes down in 1 hit. Last out is Espeon, whose special defense is even better, but again, the metronome proves to be too powerful for him to overcome. And with that, it's finally time for the ultimate showdown. I use a Hyper Potion and a Max Elixir to fully restore Soup's health and power points, then replace Grass Knot with Natural Gift, and swap out the metronome for another Pomeg Berry, so I have a strong Ice-type move to use against her Garchomp. I take 1 more deep breath as I collect myself, and then I head inside. Cynthia accepts our challenge to battle her for the title of most fashionable person in the region, and Soup gives us 1 more wave for good luck as the battle begins. First out is her Spiritomb, who survives a Thunderbolt and hits us with a Dark Pulse for 1/3 of our health. I go for another Thunderbolt to finish it off, but she heals with a full restore, so I go for Thunderbolt again, but she switches into Garchomp, a pro move that you usually never see from the game's AI. Has to be expected from the champion. All that gardening finally pays off though, as we get a one-shot with our Ice-type Natural Gift. Next is Lucario, who we crit with Brick Break for a one-shot, and use to finally get us to level 100. Togekiss and Milotic both go down easily to 1 Thunderbolt since it's super effective, and she sends Spiritomb back out to heal it with another full restore, trying to make us waste our power points with its pressure ability since it causes us to use twice as many when attacking it. Luckily, she runs out before that can happen, and last out is Roserade. I go for Dig, causing her to miss a Sludge Bomb, but it lives on red HP, giving me a minor heart attack. Luckily, it goes for Toxic, so we still have a chance, but we need to finish this quickly. I go for one last dig as she misses another Sludge Bomb, and with that, we've finally successfully beaten the challenge and earned our place in the Hall of Fame with the title of Ultimate Fashion Icon. This was an incredibly fun project for me, and I honestly felt such an adrenaline rush when I finally beat the champion. I can't remember the last time I was more nervous than right before that final rival fight, since I knew I wasn't going to be allowed to save. I know I wasn't perfect and there are probably tons of areas where I could improve, but this was mainly just a proof of concept for me. I had a ton of fun and I'm super happy that I got to prove that this was indeed possible. What other kinds of runs would you all like to see in the future? Right now the only other ideas I have are maybe a Sunkern only run in Soul Silver or possibly Tynamo only in Pokemon White. Although I've seen both of those done before, I think both of those runs could also be improved. That being said though, Platinum is probably my favorite game for these types of challenges, and I'm really looking forward to doing some more in the future. Thank you for watching everybody, and I hope you all have an amazing day.